Hey everybody. So, for the questions that people are asking, I've got a big list of them. And one of the first one is from Lauren. She asked, how do you start communicating with ETs, and is there a way for someone like me to initiate peaceful contact? Um, Complicated question and simple in the at first sight, but how did I start? I didn't is the thing. And look, just making sure I have this right. Yeah. I didn't. They came to me. They came to me when I was a kid, and a lot of people call it abduction. It's not abduction. It's an experience. I knew as a kid that I was having dreams of going up on ships and flying around with my friends. And later on, that's the same way somebody else I know describes it, that you were taken through the window at night onto a ship and you got to fly around with your friends, and you were all excited to go to sleep because you knew your friends were coming, and or they might come. And then I got older, and as what happens with younger kids and growing up, you think they're just dreams, and then you start to become terrified of them. And although you're like, oh, I can go have these cold dreams, when you sit down to watch any number of experience videos, documentaries, there's just this terrifying, paralyzing fear that overcomes you, and you have no idea what to do with it. And so for years, I loved ET research when I was younger, and I stopped because I couldn't handle it. It was too. It was very painful for me to do things. There's the one movie, The Fourth Kind. I have always wanted to watch it because it's based on a true story and original tapings and recordings of what happened up in Alaska years ago. And every time I'd pick up the movie, like I even we used to burn DVDs back in the day. I had burned it at one point, and meaning copy. I don't know if everybody remembers that, but so I copied it and had a copy, and it just sat there for years. I couldn't watch it. Finally tried to watch it years ago, and I got 10 minutes in, and just overwhelming terror gripped me, and I couldn't watch it anymore. So that was around the time that the pandemic happened, and my guide sat me down and said, we want you to start meditating and working more. And as I was doing that, more beings were coming to me, working on my energy, tuning it, upgrading it, that sort of thing. And I sat down to watch Hangar One because they guided me to. They were like, okay, it's time. You need to start researching ETs again. And I was like, no, I don't want to. Because every time I would do it, I would just be gripped in paralyzing fear. And they were like, no, you need to. So I started watching Hangar One. I watched one episode. I went back to my bedroom, took a nap. A bunch of memories flooded me. I had memories of, I woke up. I think I woke up from my nap at one point in the bed, and the bed looked like a lab table, and there was a Zeta sitting there holding my hand. The typical, what people would call a gray. And in the windows, the reflection of the windows I had, there were these really big-headed Zetas, which the last time I ran into them, they said they're called Zeta Primes, or that they're from Zeta Prime. One of the two. And was absolutely terrified. I was like, I don't know if I can do this, if I can get through this. And they were like, no, you need to keep watching the Hangar One stuff. And so I started watching it, and was having memories. I had a memory of like putting my hand on the back of my head and blood being there. I had memories of the ships and different things. And it was terrifying is really the only word I can use. And all of a sudden I was guided to talk, and I had been guided to years to talk with a client who was also a friend. And she, every time I go to talk to her, the doubt and the fear would come up, and I'd be like, no. So I've known her for almost 10 years, and so this is probably 4 years ago that I finally was like, okay, I need to email her. I emailed her. We set up a time to talk, and she said she's like, I went through the same thing. My friends came when I was a kid, excited to be going up there. You get the fear when you get older. And she said one question. She was like, what do you have to be afraid of? And I went, well, what do you mean? She's like, you're still here, aren't you? You're still alive. You're still moving. You're still doing stuff. Aren't you still here? I went, yeah. And then all the fear dissipated. Everything, like within an instant, gone. From that time on, my memories flooded me. They worked with me in meditation, dream, sometimes when I was awake, and started flooding my memories. I learned that the blood on the back of the neck was actually when they were doing a procedure to give me a chip, and it's not a chip. I call it a chip because that's the only word we really have to describe it. But there is a tracker, basically a tracker and health monitor of some kind. The way they describe it is you can call it a chip, but it's technology you won't understand. And so I learned that they actually have that, and I was doubting myself. And when I went to New Mexico, one of them was able to track me with pinpoint precision wherever I was at in New Mexico. So basically solidifying the fact that it was there. And over time, as I meditated more, as I worked through the fear, that's the biggest thing, was working through the fear. They came to me in meditation, and that was how it really all started. Is that an Arcturian came, said, we're going to work with you, we're going to start opening things. So they started opening portals and wormholes, teaching me to use my third eye, the wormhole there, traveling through space-time, astrally, to go different places, and slowly introduced me to planets, people, concepts, things I was ready to understand. And there were questions I would ask that they would not answer. They would be like, just baby steps, understand this, process it, then we'll answer your questions later. Because there were questions, it was a long time before they took me through some of our solar system. And so they came to me, and to the degree that they just kept coming, because I was open to it. I wasn't afraid. I dealt with the emotional side of the traumas that the physical body takes on and wants to be like, run away because, hey, I was experimented on, and that's not actually what happened, because if you don't remember the full scenario, and if you don't understand their perspective, you don't understand what happened to you. And it's like taking a cat to the veterinarian clinic. The cat doesn't understand why it's there, so it screams and wants to run away, but it's there for a good reason, for healing and growth. And that's what I had to understand, that my experiences were healing and growth. And I don't want to downplay other people's experiences. Some of them are quite horrifying. Some people do, or some ETs are malicious, and some of them have done some horrible things, but most of the experiences that are out there are misunderstood. And that's the first thing you have to get through, is accepting that they aren't the way the media, the government, and all them portray. They are very peaceful, loving beings for the most part, and experiences are not to be afraid. They're to be understood. And if you don't understand it, the emotional response, you have to work on clearing that. And then telling, and when it's time, they'll come. And when it's time that they come, being like, I want to do this. I accept you into my heart. I'll do this. I'll, if you tell me to meditate, I'll sit down and meditate, because a lot of them are traveling astrally and telepathically, and they'll teach you things. They'll get you ready. And then sooner or later, you will have physical contact. I've done so much stuff the past few years that I don't remember the first time that I had physical contact when I knew what was going on. But early on, I had physical contact where I'd wake up and I'd be hovering above my bed, and I caught a Zeta one time in my bedroom, and I was so used to Fae and spirits being in my room that I looked over at him and I was like, what are you doing here? And I thought he was a Fae, but he looked at me, his eyes widened with surprise, and I could feel the surprise from him, and my body dropped 3 feet onto the bed, and he ran out of the bedroom. Before that, I had an experience where I woke up years before then and heard somebody in my house rummaging through my house, and I went into the kitchen and the door was open, and there was a Zeta standing there looking at my refrigerator. And one of the things they'll do is they'll look at your books, your refrigerator, different things when they're physically around to see if you're listening, if you're raising your vibration. Are you eating unhealthy food? Are you consuming, high vibration books and media and that sort of thing? And I didn't understand. I thought I found a Fae, and then it turned into a dream. I remembered it as a dream because a lot of times what happens is they may memory wipe you, or they'll just put you to sleep to where when you wake up you remember it as a dream, and you're just like, oh, that wasn't anything. But I learned because it happened again when I was able to accept them. I found an ET searching my house in the fridge looking at books, and I was like, what are you doing? And he goes, what did he say? I'm trying to learn how knowledgeable you are, or something. I don't remember. It's in my one ET book. But he said something like he was looking to see how awake and knowledgeable I was. And it turned out to be vibration oriented and accepting and that sort of thing. He even left a gift where he had cloaked himself so I couldn't see him, because this is coming to mind, so I must be supposed to tell you. About a year before that, I had moved into that apartment, 6 months to a year before that, and didn't have the memory of this until they unlocked it. But I was like, why won't you guys just come here into my apartment? I know you're here. I know I like, sometimes you're actually physically there and you're hiding yourselves, whether through mental manipulation or technology. And they unlocked a memory where I was in the apartment. They came in at one point. I was watching TV and I watched him walk against the wall, invisible, but I could see his energy. And then he appeared and I was like, holy hell. And I kicked him right in the chest and threw him up against the wall. And the memory ended there. And I woke up, when I had that memory, I woke up in my bed speaking an entirely another language, gasping for air from the kick, because they were showing me not my memory. They were showing me it from his perspective. So it was an experience of when you're telepathic, you can share memories. That he was showing me why they didn't come around when I was awake, because I hadn't worked through all the fear, and apparently I had kicked one pretty good. So you have to work through the fear. You have to get through all that, and then they come, and they slowly come. You'll hear stuff at night. You'll they'll send, I guess you could call them scouts. They'll send somebody in just to look around and see how you react. And the cool thing is as you're doing that, you're going to be working with specific ones, and those are the ones coming to you. But because your heart is open, because you worked through the fear, and because you accept them, they tell others, and then others can also pick up on your energy. So if they're flying over and they pick up on you, and they're friends with another one, or whatever it is, wherever you are. One of the ETs, Wasp, a mantid, I met him because he saw me in the woods. He was exploring the woods, watched me, saw me giving offerings and respecting nature, and then followed me back to my house and actually came to the house. and was like jumping around the bed and doing different things, to where the cat was interacting with him too. And he was completely random, and he's one of my favorites. Most of them are kind of guides and trying to wake you to what's coming, and they come and go, and some of them are very close, become very close friends. But the very close friends are more happenstance. Hito, the Sasquatch down by the river, the Wasp. Those are probably the top two, and some Arcturians and Zetas. But you just have to wait and work. And there's a lot of work, a lot of emotional work, mental work, working on your vibration, working on becoming a better person, and not being afraid. That's the biggest thing. You don't have to have the highest vibration. It's more about not being afraid and not following the status quo of, ETs are malicious and all the things that we see on the media nowadays because of what's coming with the government. But how to initiate contact is, I would say, talk to your guides. Tell them, if you think you're ready, just ask your guides in spirit, hey, I'm ready to start communicating with you. Can you guide me to what I need? Now, a lot of you are going to be guided to me and have been already. And that's one of the things. The first reading I did was somebody who is now, she's a soul sister that I found out. And she, as soon as I saw her picture, I was like, there's a mantid with her. And there wasn't just a mantid, there was a mantid, an Arcturian, and a Zeta. And they were around saying hi. And it was to confirm with her that they are around and watching and waiting for her to be ready. And several others of you are having those messages too. And that's, you just have to work with them, ask them, hey, I think I'm ready. What's the next step? How do I do this? For me, I was guided to a couple books that I read, and then they started telling me I needed to go out into the woods, miles into the woods by myself and sit by a fire. And that's when the 3 Sasquatches came, dropped by a UFO. And that was the most unnerving experience I've ever had, to have these beings walking around my campfire. One of them, warrior class. If you think of, clans and tribes and how they have different classes of, some people are story keepers, some people are warriors, that sort of thing. Having the warrior class sitting there like ready to tear your limbs off if you try something, and having the knowledge keeper walking around trying to teach you about telepathy and that sort of thing, and then just getting to the point where it's too much and you have to stop. But if they go, hey, we're working with you, we want you to do this, trust them. I mean, don't do anything dangerous. Don't do anything that is going to cause harm or hurt you or, put you into an unsafe position. But trust them with baby steps. And you might find that you're telepathically seeing them in the back of your mind first, meditating, and that images are appearing in your mind, or that astrally you're seeing them with your third eye. But it's all about trust and opening your heart, getting rid of the fear, and then just working through it. And once you do that, man, they all come. If you're truly open, I can tell you, they absolutely want to talk to humans, learn about them, help them. It's a beautiful world out there, and most of them have no, harmful gain, because in the end, love is one of the highest states of being, and all of these beings are higher state beings, which means most of them, they just love everybody, and they don't want to harm you. And if you're open, they will come. I always think of Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. And the idea is, if you build your awareness and push through and do the work on fear and emotions and all that, they will come. And it'll be slow drips, baby steps. unless they think you need a shake for some reason, and they'll drop 3 Sasquatches around you. And that was one of my first shakes, not the last one. So hopefully that answers the question. If you have more questions, just ask and I'll add them to the list. Thank you for listening.